So after many months of work on the interior of this car, it's finally time to start focusing on the floor. We've already done all our rebuilding, but now it's time to get this thing stripped down to bare metal. But a job like this isn't a simple thing, so don't be surprised if you run into some surprises. My name is Trooper Max, and I'm restoring a car that's been off the road since 1977. But I've never done this before. I've taken the time to do my research, and I'm building the car of my dreams, hoping to inspire others to do the same. So today we're stripping the floor in our Chevy Nova. And to do that, I've accumulated a lot of tools that we're gonna compare to see which tools are the best for the job, what works and what doesn't. We got a lot of things to try out, so this is gonna be one heck of an experiment. And at this point in time, we actually have the interior stripped because I want to finish the whole floor before I do any painting. So I stopped mid-project and started this one. And prior to doing any work, this thing looked in much worse shape before. There was just a ton of rust. We actually had to replace some of the patches in the floor, so we have to repair those. We've also worked on the firewall in that area. So there's a lot of things to clean up to make it look good again, because right now it's looking pretty rough. So let's just start stripping this thing to see the condition of this. Let's see what works best. Okay, so this is what we're gonna be doing today. We're gonna be doing the driver's side, try it out. I already took the time to remove all the black goop, the acoustic and vapor seal. I don't wanna be sanding that. I'm gonna be using a mask when I get into it. I always wear a full face mask, just protects my face and lungs. And this is definitely the way to go. For now, I'll just wear glasses for this part. But let's try some tools out. Okay, so we got a lot of surface area. I think I'm gonna try the biggest tool I have. And SCT stands for Surface Conditioning Tool. And this is just a knockoff from the real thing. So this is an overseas version. And I just have the stripping drum on here. So we're gonna try it out. Let's try it in this area over here and see how it does. So that did a really nice job, nice and quick, very smooth. There's no dips or valleys or anything. It didn't take any metal off. SCT works really well with the stripping disc. Can't complain. Next tool we got is a grinder with this wire brush attachment. Now I haven't used this before. This is the coarse one. There's two different kinds. There's a coarse and a fine. I got both here. We'll try them out. We'll see how it does. All right, so this is the coarse one. Let's give it a shot. All right, so that was the course. It did a really good job. Let's try the fine. I already put it on. Alrighty, so both attachments did a really good job. I'm not sure which one I like better. This one's more of a smooth finish and it gets the finer rust. This one's more aggressive, obviously. But I think a combination of both worked really, really well. So I think in terms of the wire attachments, pretty cool. It's definitely going to go with. Alrighty, so let's switch over to another attachment on the grinder. And it's this one right here. So this is a stripping disc. And basically it's the same material that's on the SCT drum, but instead of drum form, it's disc form. So this should be smaller and a little more aggressive based on the RPMs and what areas it can get to. So let's try this area here. There's like a mix of paint, just metal, and some rust. Wow. Okay, so out of all three, this one's the clear winner in terms of how quickly and how aggressively it removes it. However, I saw sparks flying and even little pieces of metal here, they just got taken off. So you really gotta be careful with this. So this one's more aggressive, but a little more dangerous. I don't really wanna take metal off this. The problem with this floor is the metal's already so thin. So it's dangerous doing this, and in this divot here where I used it, I could feel I took off a lot more metal than I wanted to be completely honest with you. So I think for us, this might not be the best option on an old floor. Like on a newer floor here, it's fine, but when it's really thin, this is a little dangerous, but it's so effective. So I am gonna use it in some areas, but you gotta kind of be sparingly with it. So out of the two tools, when you're talking about the SCT and and the grinder, I think they're both winners really in my mind. Like, they both have their uses. You can get in more areas with this one. You can't really get in so many with the SET. Safer, more aggressive, both of them really good. And at the same time, these wire brush attachments, really good too. So I think in terms of electric tools, we're pretty covered, so we're happy with those ones. So another thing that I'm left here with the floor, because I did some welding, I have some nasty welds over here, and those need to be taken off. And the best way to remove that is actually busting out the grinder once more and using one of these flap disc attachments. The flap disc is just a bunch of sandpaper in the form of a disc. And to do that, really, it's just as easy as taking it and going at it. Now that just leaves a nice smooth finish, and it's a lot less aggressive than using a traditional grinding stone. For something like this, I really want it to be as smooth as possible, and I'm not trying to take it all off. All I'm gonna do is try to take off as much as I can, and then I'm gonna clean it up with body fill later on. I'm actually leaving a bit of a hump because these are so thin. Underneath, when I'm gonna be grinding these down, I actually want that as flat as possible. Because this is under a carpet, I'd rather leave this part a little bit raised because I don't want to risk burning through this. So on the other side, I'll go a little deeper, whereas here I'll leave a little bit of a bump and just fill it up with some body filler and make it look nice. I'm gonna see underneath the car, I'm not gonna see here. So you gotta kind of pick your battles. That's why it would have been so much easier just to do a whole new floor pan. I wouldn't have to worry about any of this. With a whole new floor pan, you don't have any butt welds like this. All you have basically is in here, you have spot welds from underneath. You put your rosette welds and you're good to go. So it would have been much easier, but lesson learned. All right, let's try out some next tools. Now we're gonna try out the pneumatic tools. I think we're good with the electric ones. So we're gonna be starting with the 90-degree die grinder. And this just basically has an assortment of attachments you can use. So because we're gonna be using this, we're gonna need our tool and we're gonna need a compressor. So we have our air hooked up. I just have a small compressor. It's only a 6-gallon. It's pretty powerful, but it doesn't have very much capacity. So it charges often. I have to stop a lot. I wish I had a bigger one, but I don't. But anyways, we'll still try this out. You gotta plug it in. We have our line here. I have a kink-free line because it just helps. I don't like getting it all tangled and everything. So that's what I've been using. It's worth the extra money, that's for sure. We'll put it on. I think I'm gonna try here. So this is a stripping disc that's on here, and it's pretty easy. All you do is you take them and you can spin them on, spin them off, and change them. So we'll start with the stripping disc. Once again, this is the same material as the SCT and the one that was on the grinder. So let's use that to be fair. Okay, so it worked, but man, is that ever slow. It's just much more slow and painful than the other ones. Yeah, I'm gonna try changing it using a different tip. That was just paint. It was really hard for it to come off. What I'm gonna put on is this 36 grit stripping pad. It's just basically sanding pad. Yeah, let's try this out. Maybe this will work better, I'm not sure. No, that worked pretty well. Can't complain. The little sandpaper bit definitely does better than the stripping pad, but I don't know, they're both good. Definitely all much slower than the SCT and the grinder, so a lot more frustrating, takes a lot more time, but you can get in much more areas, you have more flexibility where you can use it, but it's loud, it's kind of annoying using the compressor. You need more equipment, so I don't know. I'm not really sold on the pneumatic tools, to be completely honest with you. But there is still one more pneumatic tool we could use. Let's try it out. What we got here is an air belt sander. And this tool is basically designed to get into areas that everything else can't reach. So as you can see, it's very dexterous based on how thin it is. Obviously, it's gonna be much better in getting in other areas that just other tools can't. But let's see how it does on a larger surface area. I'm just curious how it's gonna do. This is with a 80 grit paper. All right, so air belt sander, wow, it does an awesome job. It just destroys everything. It does really well on rust especially. And the cool thing about it is you can actually use it to break down welds as well. So any sort of spot welds, things like that. So very effective tool. Now the one thing that kind of sucks about these tools, not only do you need to have an air compressor and you need to have the air hose, you actually still have to oil these too as well. So what I do is I just have this. It's basically just air tool oil, and you just put a couple of drips in every single day. You got to kind of do that every single day. So just to maintain the tools. So they are more maintenance, more work, more cost, and they're in the way. So you get what you get with them, but honestly, they are good tools. Next option is, well, the smallest one there is, just using a drill. So you can get an assortment of different attachments for drills. So that's what we're gonna be using today. So first thing we'll be using, basically it's just these stripping discs. Once again, same material that's on the SCT, that's on the grinder, that we use on the pneumatic tools. It just goes on a drill. So we put it on, and let's just give it a shot. Just keep going right over here. I did pretty well considering what it is. Let's try the wire brush set. So the wire brush set comes with a whole assortment of different wire brushes, and you can just put those on your drill. So we're gonna be using this big guy over here. We'll just slap that on, and we're just gonna keep going here with the paint. Wow, so it did a really good job, especially on the paint here. It's so smooth. It struggled a little bit on the rust, I'll say that. It didn't do as well of a good job. However, if you look at it, it's so smooth here versus like the air belt sander or even the pneumatic tools. You could definitely see much more texture though. This one is just smooth, so you're not removing any metal, which is great in this case. So I think what we're gonna do is we'll try out one more. So we have our wire brush, once again. Let's try another attachment. So you also have these attachments, these little wheels, and they come in different sizes. You can have up to 4 inches large, but let's go with a smaller one. And some of them are metal, some of them are brass, so that one's brass. Let's try this one out. Holy shih tzu! You know, I've used these a lot before, and yet I'm still surprised on how effective they are. Especially when we're comparing like this. I didn't expect to be quite that extreme, but I think we have a clear winner here, folks. Wow, this works really well. So the drill with this attachment, let's try the bigger one first. Let's see, I'm curious. Will the bigger one do a good job or worse job because it's more surface area? I don't know. It doesn't even matter, wow. Oh, that is pretty cool. So, and honestly, it didn't take any metal off. Once again, it's super smooth. I gotta say, in terms of the tools, I think I like the drill the best. You know, this kit is pretty good. It's pretty inexpensive. They do wear down, like you'll notice as you're working, they start wearing down and they don't go as quickly and you gotta throw them out. So it does cost some money, but I think this is the way to go. I think for what we're gonna be doing here, I think what I'm gonna do is use a combination of the SCT and the wire brushes, honestly. I don't know how much of the pneumatic tools I'm gonna use on this job. So unfortunately for me, it looks like my welding and repair work is not quite done. I neglected to strip this floor when I was working on the floors, and now I'm finding areas with holes, and then there's more rust here and pitting and whatnot. And I can tell you right now, I gotta cut a chunk out here and fix it. There's holes on the side here. So this kind of sucks. I haven't even touched the other side yet, and I'm not sure what I'm gonna find there. I'm not stripping the new panels. I'm gonna keep the electrostatic coating on. I'm just gonna leave it. Just gonna scuff it up and paint it. But honestly, this stuff has to be removed. So I see a lot more problems here. So we're gonna take that apart, and we're also gonna sand the other side, and we'll figure out what to do next. What are you doing today, Bobbies?
We're on the Nova.
All right, come sit on Dada. Yeah.
By myself.
Okay. Good job. There you go. Yeah. Man, you're strong these days. Good boy. I love you, buddy.
Did you by myself?
Yeah, you did it.
Boom. Take your rocks. Hey, Mo, we should go. Away. Here. Rocks.
Bubbies, what'd you do today?
It's on the Nova.
So that was awesome. You know, this was always meant to be a family journey. So to have my son and my wife involved, it's just very fulfilling. Anyways, what we gotta do is we gotta continue this. We gotta continue stripping this. I think I'm gonna pick up where my son left off. And I think I'm just gonna hit in high gear. Let's figure out the condition of this floor. So that's the end of day 2. That's right, we've spent 2 full days stripping this thing. I probably got another half day left to get it all done, but I'm pretty happy with it overall. It's looking really good. No big surprises. Of course, I got those holes to fix, and then I found one in the inner structure, which is really not a big deal. And I also found some over here. So there's a hole over here, so there are some things we're gonna have to fix. So I'm just gonna take my time to finish stripping the rest of this, and then we'll get on the next stage, which is doing our final repair work. Well, it took nearly another full day, and my body's feeling broken, and my energy's just been deleted. But she's all done, she's all sanded, it looks good, and overall, this is where it pays off to have a solid car. Like, I'm so pleased about the interior in here. It's in such good shape, the damage is just minimal. The thing that took the longest to do, honestly, was removing the black goop. That stuff is just such a pain in the butt to remove, and if you hit it with your wire brush, it just goops it up and it doesn't work anymore, so you have to keep scraping it off, and then using combination of some sort of solvent or paint thinner or whatever, Varsol to remove it, and a rag. It takes forever. But anyways, it's mostly all gone. Still gonna do some final touch-up sanding in this car before we do our Ospho later on. Like, there's still some other areas we've done I just want to touch up, and I have another tool I want to use later on to show you how to get into some areas I wasn't able to access before. But before we do that, we gotta do some welding. So if, you know, running into a problem like this, it's good to have the skills to weld. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna see how much my skills have improved doing floors, because when I first did it, they were horrible. Like, I had just started and my welding was god awful. And that was like 7 months ago. So let's see if we can see how much I've improved since then. Hopefully a little bit. So this is the bad area. Let's cut the square a little bigger than we need, just in case. Something like that. We're not gonna cut this thing out. I can see a spot weld over here, so I'm gonna avoid whatever's under here. We'll just go around like this. That ought to do it. Oh man. So I have run into a problem here, and not one I expected. I was gonna fix these holes, and I wanted to tackle this part by cutting the square a little bit bigger than I needed, just a bit, you know, just to make sure that, you know, I get as much of the rust as possible. And look what I've uncovered. That's unexpected. That's just very rusty. And it's pretty wet. I don't really know what to do. I think I'm just gonna have to clean it up as best I can, but I'm not really a big fan knowing there's all that rust under here and then probably the same thing on the other side. Huh. Well, wasn't expecting to fix something like this, so I'm not really sure what to do, but this really sucks. Damn, that sucks. Look at that. Now I got this moral battle. It's like, what do I do? Do I just cover this up? Do I just clean it as best I can? I really don't want to replace this whole darn thing. Like, I put so much time cleaning this up. It's in good shape and overall blah, blah, blah. But here, this area here where the torque box are just, damn it. Damn it. Damn it. All right, so plan modification. I looked underneath and I just happened to land where the frame rails come in. So that's why it's all nasty here, because this is where the frame rail comes in. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm actually just gonna cut it a little bit bigger and do a bigger chunk, because it actually ends about here, and then these here are where the frame rail spot welds go. So the frame rail keeps going, which is why, you know, this is the whole point of doing this thing. You could see what's going on if you don't remove the layers. So I'm just gonna move ever so slightly to the side and ever so slightly to the back and put a new piece of metal there. That's pretty much the only thing I think I could do. So let's give it a shot. All right, so we got all ready to go. I just put weld through primer on both sides, just because if we're gonna do any welding, there's no point in putting epoxy, it'll just burn it all away. I didn't get rid of the rust here because there are holes down there, so when this is on and I'm doing the bottom, I'm actually gonna use internal frame coating. I'm gonna shoot it in all around there, and you actually want rust when you're using internal frame coating, so there's no reason to get rid of it. But anyways, I made my panel. It's made out of 18 gauge metal, so it's really thick. And let's see how she fits. Wow, that's wow, like a glove. I'm actually pretty impressed. All right, let's get this weld in. Let's see how our spot welds are first, our rosette welds. Let's see how we can do with that. Already got my welder on. I'm actually gonna turn down my wire speed to low, in between low and normal, because I'm actually gonna be rosette welding and we don't want it too much heat but you want a little bit more heat than you would do just sheet metal butt welds. And wire speed, very slow, always very slow. This is just a flux core welder I'm still using. Not using the gas, the most inexpensive option there is, and it works well. And I got my self-dimming helmet, which is the most important thing I wish I had when I first did this. I was just using one of those flip helmets, took forever. This is the thing that saved me the most time now, so number one biggest time not using a good helmet. Anyways, let's give this thing a shot. It fits really well. There is a bit of a gap here. There, I'm gonna actually hit it down, so this kind of sucks. That's pretty tight, but when I hit it down, it should be pretty close. I just need to get this, this piece on first. Gotta make sure it's really tight. Not as flush as I want, but it's not bad. Let's do another one. That's better. I'm gonna put my heat up a little bit. Put it to normal. There we go. That's a lot better. Alrighty, I turned the heat up ever so slightly. See, that one's a lot more flush. A little bit more heat goes a long way. Right. Pretty happy with those. Those are pretty nice welds. I'm gonna do a butt weld now. So I turn my heat back down. So here, short bursts and spaced apart. Whoops. See, there's a bit of gap there, so it's harder. So I'm gonna go like this. From an angle, catch it, finish it off. So I gotta fix that, but it's not too bad. And I can go back here and do it again. That's not bad. So I'm just gonna do that, go all the way around and move on. There we go. Heat circles means it works properly. Hi, Bobbies. How's it going, buddy?
Take a picture of the car.
Take a picture of the car. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, blue car.
Hi, Pookie. Alrighty, so we've concluded our welding, and overall, I'm pretty happy with it. It looks pretty good. I gotta tell you, the welding is much better than when we first did it, but there's always room for improvement. I'm just glad to know that that part is protected. I would say 70% of it is protected. I know there's some parts I didn't do, but for the vast majority, it's pretty solid. So now, if you're in my position, if you knew what I know, would you, one, look at the other side and say, you know what, I'm gonna move on. Call her a day, it's all silver, I'm moving on. Or would you pick option number two, have some misery, and say, hey, I'm gonna rip that part open and I'm gonna see what's under there? Well, you better believe I'm gonna pick option number two. That's exactly what I did. I took the grinder, I went right into the heart of this thing, cut it right open. Only this time I decided to take a larger square because I wanted more of the surface area. So I cut it open, and at the same time I also decided to cut the spot welds out this time with the Blair spot weld cutter, and it just went so much smoother. I didn't even need the pneumatic hammer this time, it just came right off. I even busted a new tool, the rotary tool, which is what we're going to be using later on for more rust removal. Once I opened this thing, it was just full of rust, same thing as the other side. So I cut it off, I treated all the rust, I got it back into the condition that I wanted it to be in, and then I took the time to take the panel and trace it on a new piece of metal. I made my metal, I drilled all my holes, I got it all ready, I painted it, and then it was just a matter of dropping it in. So then I dropped the panel in and just started welding. And things just went so much smoother this time than the first time. You know, once you do this once, you really get better at it. So the second time was just super fast. And I'm really glad I did this. And overall now it looks pretty good. The welds are even better, and at least those two areas are solid now. So now moving on, there was still a few other areas I had to do. So right over there, I had a hole, so I decided to take a little piece of the floor pan. I didn't actually throw out the other piece of floor pan that I bought. I kept the middle part, so I was able to cut it out and I was able to put it in. This is why it's a good idea to hold on to your items even if you think you don't need them. Thank God I held on to them. It just made this job so much easier. So now that's done, and I patched all the other holes. So now all I have left is one more thing, and that's going back to the old demon spawn right over here. Now, since I began this restoration, nothing has been a bigger battle than this seatbelt anchor over here. Oh man, this epic battle is just something I just cannot win. Oh no! But I hate losing, I really do, and I don't like giving up. So what I gotta do is I gotta tackle this because this is now a problem. So I got one more thing I'm gonna try. I bought another gimmick, another one of these removal kits, but at this point, like, I got nothing to lose but time. So let's do it. Well, I guess some money too. So we're gonna try one of these things and we're gonna put it in and see how it works. So this is what we're gonna be trying out. One of the old removal kits, so let's give it a shot. Alrighty. So the cool thing about this one is you can actually put a socket on the top of it. So that's neat. I don't know what size I need. Just gonna keep trying. Let's try that one out. What I'm gonna do is actually, because I can press down this, I'm gonna try the impact gun, because then I can put my full force into it. Come on, baby. Nope. I actually stripped the hell out of this thing. Well, that's freaking useless. Let's try another one, I guess. Come on! There's just no freaking way. Yeah, these are toast. Useless. All right, so these are going exactly where they belong. In the trash. You know, I should have known better. It's like I read the reviews and this is what I heard people were saying. So I'm the stupid one for trying these. Anyways, I still get surprised that people actually sell this kind of crap. Anyways, so what I'm just gonna do is take a grinder and cut this open. Alrighty, so our seatbelt anchor is in. You know, this really wasn't as much of a deal as I made it out to be. I took the grinder, I cut it open, I took a piece of metal, I traced it, I cut it out. I actually had some seatbelt anchors lying around, so I took one of those and I was able to merge it together with this piece of metal. I welded it together, put some weld through primer on it, and then it was just a matter of taking this thing and welding it into place. And I just used a magnet to hold it all in place while I was doing this. And bam, good as new. Now we know that side is safe. Both sides are safe. There's a lot of metal there and I really welded the hell out of it. I used a deep welding technique. So first I used low voltage and I just hit it. And then later on I cranked it. I made sure the weld was really deep, red hot, put it in there. And now I know this thing's good to go. So now when we're talking about this car, one thing we haven't really talked about too much is safety. So we're putting all this effort in. These are old cars. There's a lot we can do to make these cars safer. Now I had added anchors in here earlier on so we can do our 3-point belts, but there were other couple problems. So other than that one, we actually had to do something right over here. So this middle part in the transmission tunnel, the problem with this transmission tunnel, it's so rusted away that it's probably half the thickness it should be. So where the belts are, the anchors is actually really thin. So if you were to crash, okay, these two are gonna hold you, but this one's just gonna fire right out. So what I did is I thought to myself, I gotta increase the safety here. So I took a piece of metal, I cut it out, I put some holes in it, and I got it all painted. And what I did is I just sandwiched 2 pieces of metal together. Adding 2 pieces of metal here and welding the hell out of it. Now this is super strong, there's no deflection. If anything were to happen, it should be a lot safer now. Guys, you gotta think at the end of the day here, like what's on the line here? Your most important thing is your life. And these things, you know, if you crash, your chances are pretty low, so you gotta do a lot of modifications. So we are doing a lot of stuff in this. With the belts, we did that, fixed the anchor. We're gonna be putting in a collapsible steering column because that's another big thing. I'm gonna be adding frame connectors, disc brakes, power steering, power brakes. All this stuff is just gonna make the car a lot safer. You know, I mess around a lot, I joke around, but being serious for a second, I'm so fortunate I'm a dad right now. I have 2 kids, you know. I got Pookie and I got Bobbies. Those are just their nicknames, but I call them that, and I'm just so thankful to have them. And should anything happen, it's not worth your life, you know what I mean? So guys, just, you know what, when you're doing this stuff, it's better to just slow down, take more time, even if it's more expensive. Your life is number 1, car is number 2. So now all that's left to do is clean this thing up. I gotta clean up the welds. I'm actually using the rotary tool. Bam, with this attachment, I'm able to access all those areas I couldn't do before. So where I was using the needle scaler earlier on in the project, I could have just used this guy. Now it's not incredibly quick, but this will get you in areas that you couldn't reach, so just another tool we can use. Now we're just gonna clean this thing up and get it ready for Ospho. And before we do our Ospho, I'm actually gonna go start doing the trunk right now. I wanna get that all stripped, so when I do my Ospho, I'm gonna do it all once. But that's in the next video. So it's been a couple weeks since we worked on this car, and it's exciting because the quarter panels are on, and at the same time I took the time to actually strip the entire trunk and get that ready for paint. But I'm not going to show you that right now, you're going to have to keep watching. For now, we're back to the interior here. It's been probably close to 3 weeks, and it's already started to rust. If you look closely, you could see flash rust happening, and in some areas it's actually quite significant. So it's crazy how quickly the flash rusting happens. So that's why we've been doing the whole Ospho part, because if you look at the dashboard where we put Ospho, worked on months ago, there's absolutely no rust. And that's the whole idea of doing this. So when I go to prime this thing, I can hit it all at once rather than doing little parts. I didn't want to do any Ospho right now because I wanted to get the quarters on and finish them, because the welding and the sparks can cause damage, so it just makes a huge mess. It's just better to get that done, and then now we can do it. But before doing the Ospho, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna kind of button this thing up. So I'm just gonna go around, hit the areas where the rust has started to come back, hit some areas I may have missed, and just get this thing ready for our Ospho. Alright, so now that our sanding is concluded, we can finally seal this thing. And I'm just going to do the same system I always do, grabbing our Ospho, putting it on, taking a scuff pad, taking off as much rust as we can, because this will take off more rust that we weren't able to remove with the sanding materials. And then just wipe it away. I'm just leaving a really thin coat on here. This will protect it, and this will allow me to go do other jobs, and this won't flash rust, because the flash rusting here is already pretty incredible, so we really want to stop this stuff. So let's just get this done. Look at all that. Oh man, would you look at that? I am actually quite proud of this. This looks great. Oh man, after all the hard work, it's just so nice to see this thing all coming together. For the first time on this job, after 7 months of working on it, I finally see a light at the end of the tunnel. you know, it just felt like everything I was doing, I'm just finding rust and cutting new panels open and just over and over again, and it just started getting really depressing. But after doing everything and pushing through, I can honestly say we've tackled probably 95% of the rust on this car. Before it's done, before it goes out, it's gonna be as close to factory as possible. So it's just awesome to know that this thing should last at least another 50 years, hopefully more. You know, with the technology we have available now, I think it makes sense to put the extra effort in because they couldn't do that 50 years ago. Whereas now, using the epoxy primers and seam sealers and all that, which we will be doing later on, we're gonna ensure that this thing doesn't rust for a very long time because they are rare. You gotta treat these cars with respect, you gotta have pride with them, and you gotta keep them going as long as possible, you know? So this is really exciting. So next thing I'm gonna do is actually go to the trunk. I've already stripped it, and you're gonna see that on the next video, and you're gonna see what kind of surprise we ran into, because we did, and some ingenuity we thought of for some solutions that we had. So I think it's gonna be pretty exciting for you guys to watch this, so we hope to see you there. Thanks for watching.